Have you ever regretted reaching out for help? I grew up in a house where silence was strength. My parents weren't unkind, but they believed in handling problems privately. If you cried, you were told to stop being dramatic. If you admitted fear, you were told to be tough. So I learned early that the best way to survive was to smile, keep my head down, and never let anyone know how heavy life sometimes felt. By the time I got to university, I was the picture of stability. People thought of me as reliable, organized, even cheerful. Nobody saw the part of me that dragged itself through late night shifts just to pay for books, or the part of me that sat awake worrying about my father, whose sudden illness had turned our home upside down. My mother was exhausted, my younger siblings were confused, and I was trying to be everything at once: student, worker, caretaker, glue. One night, after finishing a closing shift at work, I slumped onto the bus, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion where even breathing feels heavy. The city lights blurred past the window, and for the first time in my life, I admitted to myself that I couldn't keep going like this. The thought scared me. I had built my entire identity around holding everything together, but that night, I thought, I need help. I can't do this alone. There was a classmate I remembered, someone who had once smiled kindly and said, if you ever need someone, just ask. That memory felt like a lifeline. My hands shook as I typed, hey, I'm struggling right now. I don't know who else to talk to. For 10 minutes, I stared at the blinking cursor, debating whether to delete it. Finally, I pressed send. Her reply came quickly. Of course, I'm here. What's going on? The relief was instant. Words spilled out of me like water bursting from a dam. I told her about my dad's illness, about the constant fear of losing him, about the weight of trying to help my mom while pretending everything was normal. I told her about the late nights, the money worries, the way I sometimes lay in bed and wondered what it would feel like if I just stopped existing. Her responses were short but supportive. That sounds so hard. I'm sorry you're going through that. Not much, but it was enough. For the first time in months, I went to bed lighter. I actually thought maybe things will be okay. The next morning destroyed that hope. When I walked into class, I noticed people looking at me differently, not with kindness, with curiosity, whispers, stares. Then one guy, someone I barely spoke to, smirked and said, hey, I heard you had a breakdown last night. My stomach dropped. Later, a friend pulled me aside, hesitating before showing me their phone. Screenshots from our class group chat. My confidant had shared nearly everything I'd told her. Not verbatim, but enough. She described me as dumping my drama on her, joked about me acting like I was the only one struggling, even added, he's being so over the top about it. Some people laughed. Others chimed in with pitying comments, the kind you say when you don't respect someone but want to seem nice. My private pain, the deepest, most vulnerable parts of myself, had been turned into gossip, into entertainment. I couldn't breathe. For weeks, I avoided class. I kept my head down, skipped lectures, answered only when necessary. Every glance felt like judgment, and in that silence, I made myself a promise. Never again. Never open up. Never give anyone that kind of power over me again. So I didn't. I locked everything inside. Even as my father's health worsened, even as bills piled higher, even as the weight grew unbearable, I carried it all in silence. Outwardly, I smiled. I cracked jokes. I worked. People thought I was fine. Inside, I was hollow. It wasn't until years later, after graduation, that the walls finally cracked. I had moved to a new city, started a new life where no one knew me. I thought I had buried that betrayal for good. But one evening, sitting with a new friend, they asked me a question I wasn't ready for. Are you really okay? The way they asked, gently, genuinely, cut through me. I opened my mouth to say, I'm fine. But for the first time in years, the words wouldn't come out. Something broke. So I told them, not everything at once, but enough. My father's illness, my exhaustion. The way I reached out once and got burned so badly, I swore I'd never try again. When I finished, I waited for judgment, or worse, indifference. Instead, my friend just said softly, I'm glad you told me. You're not a burden. Not to me. And I cried. Not just a few tears, but years of pain I had hidden away. Because in that moment, I realized what that first betrayal had cost me. How many nights I suffered in silence. How much weight I carried alone. How much healing I delayed. All because the wrong person turned my honesty into a punchline. So do I regret reaching out? Yes, but not because I shouldn't have asked for help. I regret that I trusted the wrong person first. And sometimes, late at night, I still wonder how different my life might have been if my first attempt at vulnerability hadn't been shattered so cruelly.